Welcome at YouTube. We're going to be reading an article from Les Burnell on the case against predatory gambling. Published on April 12th, 2024. This is a major issue within the black community. The lotto, the gambling, the apps, it's just out of control. So we're going to take a look at this article. Also, the black coach mentions how he's been almost shook down from an issue like this. So let's check it out. Earlier this year, ahead of Super Bowl, Congressman Paul D. Tonka, New York, introduced the Better on Our Future Act, new legislation that bans all online and electronic advertisement on sports gambling. This Sunday, millions of families across the United States will tune in to watch the Super Bowl, Tonka said. Between the plays, the halftime show, and the excitement, tens of millions will be bombarded by ad after ad from DraftKings, FanDuel, and other promising so-called risk-free or no-sweat bets in their ruthless pursuit to get new customers hooked on their products. If anybody watched the YouTuber Tone Talks, he went ahead and talked about how Cameron and the other couple rappers was really being bankrolled by these things. But he didn't really get into how much the African American community money is being thrown away at these things. So in the years since the United Supreme Court legalized sports betting, these unfettered advertisements have run rampant, with betting companies shelling out billions to ensure they reach every screen across America. These ads pose a particularly dangerous threat to adolescents and young adults unaware of the risks involved in gambling and to individuals prone to addiction. The excessive, uncensored promotion of these sites need to be put in check. My legislation puts a halt to this dangerous practice and sends a powerful message to the online sports betting advertisers. Congress must take the necessary steps to reel in an industry with the power to inflict real, widespread harm on the American people. Since 2018, the Supreme Court decision to strike down a federal ban on sports betting, at least 36 states have moved to legalize gambling on sports in some capacity, with 26 states legalizing mobile sports betting. And Florida became the latest one down here with the Indians taking over the sports betting. In the first 10 months of 2022, Americans wagered $73 billion legally on sports, a 70% increase from last year, according to the American Gaming Association. Modeled after the Public Health Cigarette and Smoking Act, which banned tobacco advertisements, the Better on Our Future Act takes aim at harmful and pervasive online sports betting advertisements by prohibiting advertisements of sports books on any medium of electronic communication subject to the jurisdiction of Federal Communications Commission. So basically banning any kind of betting on tablets, phones, and also ties into an article about, I'll try to get into that one, about how the NCAA was trying to get some gambling money, and the gamblers basically saying no, they don't want to be involved with the schools no more. They're being banned from being almost 100 yards from the schools, any kind of advertising from in a lot of states. So I'll try to make a video on that one also. To get an update on the move against the spread of gambling nationwide, we checked in with Les Burnell, National Director of Public Interest Group Stop Predatory Gambling. Since we last spoke, there's a growing backlash against predatory gambling. It seems as if the crisis is peaking. Is it? The crisis is definitely more intense than it's ever been, Burnell told Corporate Crime Reporter in an interview last week. It's certainly not peaking. It's going to get a hell of a lot worse before major reforms kick in. What the American public is seeing right now is an epidemic of child and teen gambling. Commercialized sports gambling is coming into the home through every phone, tablet, and computer. For the first time in American history, you have teenagers walking into Gamblers Anonymous meetings across the country. And we are talking to high school principals and middle school principals in states that have online sports gambling. And what kids are talking about today at the cafeteria tables and the school locker rooms, they're talking about commercialized gambling. Kids used to grow up collecting baseball cards of their favorite teams and athletes. Now they're talking about sports gambling. So you see the shift. You know, they knew all this was coming when they made it legal. Sports gambling is certainly profitable today for the gambling industry, but that's not where the bulk of the profits are. They're not where they at. This has been developing in America for more than 40 years. Why are Americans seeing this crisis for the first time? Because it's entering the middle and class and upper class homes with ads for sports gambling. But if you live in a low income community anywhere in the United States, you have been inundated with gambling ads for the last 40 years. You can't walk to our store without seeing somebody throwing a lotto ticket, a this away, a pick 4, pick 5, scratch off here, there. It's just ridiculous. In a state like Texas, where the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, the government sells 100 scratch-offs in low-income communities across the state. You have to work 2 full days at a minimum wage job in Texas to buy a ticket for $100 that you can lose in 5 seconds. So, yes, there is an epidemic of predatory gambling right now, but the reason it's getting so much mainstream press is because it's now affecting middle-class and upper-class families. Because it's also a form of gambling. Online gambling is like opening a Las Vegas casino right in your bedroom. It's more addictive than the forms of gambling that have come before it. But we've had a major form of predatory gambling. Before this. How much money are we talking about? Okay, so this is the crux of this video and why it's important that this articles like this be made and the black community understand why stuff like this has to be made and put out. The total loss to consumers from state lotteries, regional casinos, and online gambling every year exceeds more than $150 billion a year. Okay, we already know who mostly playing that shit. That's from all forms of state-sanctioned predatory gambling. Pick 4, pick 6, pick 2, pick 5, all that. And that's a conservative figure. So now they just get the numbers that people report. They saying they're going to be paying lotto $5, $10. Oh, I spend this a month. But they know a lot of time people are not being honest about what they spend in actual in the lottery. That's from the State Gambling Commission. So that's the numbers they got from them. That equates, and it was just those numbers that they gave us from the state. That equates to more than $1 trillion of personal wealth lost over the next 6 years. That's disgusting. The United States government know damn well they need to sanction gambling right now. Where's this money going? And until states started legalized sports gambling, it was already legal for people to place a sports bet. Anyone in America place a friendly wager with a friend. You could have your March Madness bracket, the office pool, a friendly wager on the golf course. It was all legal. What was illegal was you couldn't run your own sports book. That was illegal everywhere except for Las Vegas and a couple of other places. But that was it. All forms of commercialized gambling are illegal in the United States, with one exception. And that exception is when you partner with the state government. The Indians partner with the state of Florida. They got casinos on every corner hanging, but it's trying to pop up in Florida now. When you get into gambling as a business, it becomes inherently predatory. It is exactly right. Unlike any other business, there is an adversarial relationship between a gambling operator and a person who is gambling. You're not going to beat the house. The gambling operators are trying to take you down. When you go out to buy a pair of shoes, you go to have a beer, you go to the movies, the business owner is not trying to destroy you. In a gambling business, I'm trying to take you for all you're worth. I'm trying to make you lose. It's in the same family as price gouging and false advertising. It's a con. The industry likes to wrap up commercialized gambling like it's any other form of entertainment, but at the core, commercialized gambling is a financial exchange that mathematically stacked against you. The longer you participate, the more frequently you participate. It's a mathematical guarantee you're going to lose it all. Who are the big online sports book players? The states that allow sport online gambling give us only a handful of licenses to specialized gambling companies. So look how they put it all in their pocket with their homeboys. MGM, Caesars, Penn National. Those are some of the traditional brick and mortar gambling companies that have moved into the online gambling business. You also have companies that have merged that came into the fantasy draft companies. Came in as fantasy draft companies like FanDuel and DraftKings. Millions of Americans played fantasy sports for decades. It kept people engaged in sports. It was done for fun, but then it became a way to acquire customers as they moved to overturn the nation's prohibition on online sports gambling. So yeah, they brought in all these people with this fantasy sport and had a big following, had a crowd, and these crowd helped them push to get gambling legalized. They're also partnering with ESPN. Yeah. And the Associated Press. One of the big online gambling operators has a partnership to post odds with the Associated Press. See all of them in on it. The newspapers in the United States that have legalized online sports gambling all cater to these gambling operators. One of the top New York broadcasters, Mike Francesa, is now sponsored by Bet Rivers. And back in the day, I remember he was opposed to sports gambling. Now he's pushing it. The sports media is a full partner with sports gambling. It's podcasting, sports talk, radio, the pregame show, the postgame show, the stadium advertising. Go to Fenway Park and look at the iconic green monster. MGM's logo is painted on the green monster. DraftKings logo will come up in the middle of a Major League Baseball game. When it comes to sports today, they have squeezed the sports around gambling. Gambling is a front and center in America's sports today. Dick Gregory said one time, gambling, I forgot the number, but he said it was, and he said some trillion number. It was a crazy number. But yeah, that gambling is a front for a lot of other craziness. That's why you're seeing this mass epidemic of young adults and teens, and in many cases children, who are now addicted to sports gambling. A woman who leads a major problem gambling addiction center on Long Island said the number one demographic calling gambling addiction online hotline is New York State, is young adults and teens. This is completely self-inflicted. This is a totally new phenomenon just in the last year or two, driven by the greed of those big gambling operators. State governments, the pro sports teams, and the media companies who are all profiting from this. Them kids get on TV now and see 100 ads, especially and I say TV, I mention their phone. They don't watch no TV. That phone is their TV. And the advertising is creating the perception that you are not a fan anymore unless you are betting on the game. Can't even sit down and enjoy the game no more. You got to bet on it. It's important for you readers to understand here that it's not just about betting on the spread of a game. Gambling on sports is like betting on a slot machine. If you're watching a baseball game, you're betting on every pitch. It's going to be a strike or a ball. In a football game, the next big play going to be a run or a pass. They come up with an unlimited number of bets. The prop bets, they call them. Will the quarterbacks throw for the 3 touchdowns in the first half? You have people paying these parlay bets on almost anything that's out there, but the real money comes in on paying play wagering. It's a slot machine type experience. Young people literally can't watch a sports event anymore without gambling on it. Young people will bet on a football game, and when the game is over, they'll message them with, hey, did you know there's a Belarusian table tennis game on now that you can gamble on? Trying to hook them in. On Hungarian bowling, trying to hook them in. Who the hell watch Hungarian bowling? The gamblers do. It's not about the sport. It's about keeping you in constant gambling action. There is a UK study that shows 86% of online gamblers' profits are coming from 5% of the gamblers. It's all about taking the casual gambler and seeing which people will chase their losses. That means if you lose $50, do you then go and put money into your account? You put more money on credit? You keep going after it to make up your losses? If you show a likelihood of chasing your losses, they aim at their marketing cannons right at you. Every minute you stay on that app, at every price point, they know you're going to lose X number of dollars. So they keep incentivizing you with bonus bets, including your phone calls from a VIP host. They will assign someone to you to text you and call you if you haven't gambled all day to keep you in constant action. This is all being done with the blessing of state governments. It's equivalent of putting Dracula in charge of the blood bank. Are the states making money on it? It's a budget gimmick. People are losing enormous sums of money on a known, dangerous, and addictive product. And for the state, it's a tiny percentage of the state budget. It costs the state way more than the money that they taking in. You say people are losing $150 million a year on legalized gambling. The American Gambling Association says that Americans place $510 billion worth of bets with illegal and unregulated operators. Remember I said Dick Gregory said that number's in the trillions somewhere? You add that 510 with that 150, and that's just being conservative. Those numbers are not coming from the FBI or some law enforcement agency. They're coming from the gambling industry. They use a phony number to push states to pass legalized gambling. When they talk about illegal gambling, a lot of it includes the March Madness pool in the office, the Super Bowl wagering in the office pool. That's a huge portion of it. There are no real numbers on illegal gambling. What we do know is that the American Gambling Association has pushed this phony narrative. We need to legalize gambling to wipe out illegal gambling. They've been saying that for 40 years. The Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani is caught in a gambling scandal. He said his former interpreter stole $4.5 million and gambled it away with illegal operators. When you legalize commercialized gambling, you normalize the activity. There is no evidence in any state that the introduction of legalized gambling has reduced illegal gambling. If I use an illegal operator for sports, I don't have to pay taxes. They let me use credit. They give me bigger odds. And that's what going to the bookies around locally is. So, all they did was made it worse by them trying to get a hold of it. That interpreter would not be betting if Major League Baseball had kept its distance from gambling. Instead, it embraced gambling. The Cleveland Cavaliers basketball coach Bernie Bickerstaff told a story about how he had been threatened by sports gamblers who bet on the team. Look how them people ran up on Bernie's ass. They lose their bets, and they call and they threaten the coach. He says that these are not wealthy people. They rely on their bets to pay off so they can pay off their bills. They're trying to make ends meet. You got as a Biggie say, you pimping John playing card notes. Paying up card notes type people. That's who ran up on Bernie. I give Coach Bickerstaff credit for having the guts to stand up and speak about this. Most coaches see this happening and don't say anything. Oh, so they already know it's happening. Other coaches they ran up on. But, they know it's a gambling problem. The first one is investigative hearings focused on this online gambling operators. Put them under oath before Congress and grill them. Have them answer questions about their business models, the data tracking they are using. Put this in a national spotlight. Up until now, this has been a state issue. The states legalize gambling. The federal government has to be the solution. So priority one is to have investigative hearings. Going back to them calling people phones and watching how long you're in the app. I didn't know they did all of that. Priority two is to restrict gambling advertising and marketing the same way we did for other known dangerous and addictive products like tobacco. Marlboro is not advertising in the middle of a Super Bowl. They don't have their logo on the green monster. They're gambling advertising. And NFL don't need that money. This isn't me saying it's a known dangerous and addictive product. It's recognized as that by the American Psychiatric Association. The APA says that gambling addiction is on the same level as opioids, cocaine, and heroin addiction. That's how they categorize. Yeah, they say they're gambling up there with that dope. In the name of protecting children, we need to restrict commercial gambling, advertising, and marketing. That's priority one. The same model that restricts tobacco advertising and marketing should exist for commercialized gambling. Exactly. Get them advertising around. The college is already going that route. Step 3 is to make commercial gambling operators legally liable under our nation's laws, the same way that every other company is legally liable. They essentially now have the deal. No legal duty of care. Right now, these companies don't care. None of them sports betting companies care about what they do, any kind of damage they do. In the Scott Stevens case in West Virginia, the West Virginia Supreme Court said there was no legal duty of care in West Virginia. Gambling operators have no legal duty of care to their customers. There are no legal duty. They don't care. The court said that the state took all of this into account when they legalized gambling. Why not criminalize online sports gambling? We would definitely support that, but why isn't it one of your top 3? It's hard to go from where we are in 2024 to criminalizing it. Yeah, it's so far gone. It's like the milk has been spoiled out of the cart now. It's hard to have that conversation with people now. Not everyone recognizes the problem yet. By restricting commercializing gambling, marketing, and advertising, it's an acknowledgement that this business is inherently predatory, dangerous, and addictive. They know that already. Then you have to move on to not just online gambling, but all forms of extreme gambling in the public square. But it's very hard to have a meaningful conversation about criminalizing online sports gambling when states are selling $100 scratch-offs to poor people, and when you have regional casinos in practically every poor community in the country. So he goes on and on and on with this. They do a lot of good work. Shout out to the people and put a correction on my channel for giving them credit. This is an issue that's plaguing mostly the black community with our scratch-offs, with our lottery, with the gambling, and the money that's being taken away. If we would push half of this money into an effort to make a grocery store or even have political power, we would be getting somewhere. But thank you for listening to the video. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks a lot.